My neighbor made my life hell by listening to loud music every single night. I knew I had to get rid of him, so I set him up and now he's in prison. Let me tell you how I did it. It all started after I got my promotion at work. Finally, I had enough money to move out of my mom's home and to find my own place. It was a one-bedroom apartment, and I absolutely loved it. But right when I went to bed at midnight, my neighbor started playing loud metal music. Ugh. I waited for 5 minutes, hoping he would turn down the music again, but nothing happened. So I decided to knock on his door. Of course, I was scared, but I had a knife with me, just in case. When he opened the door, he looked drunk and smelled like he hadn't showered in months. "What do you want?" he said. "The music's too loud. I can't sleep," I answered. "Oh, I'm feeling bad for you. Maybe I'll come pay you a visit later. What do you think?" he said, with a big smile on his face. Then he closed the door and turned the music up even more. Wow, he wasn't just a jerk, but he was also threatening me. I immediately called the police, but all they could do was ask him to turn down his music. But as soon as they left, my neighbor turned his music up again. I might look like a nice and sweet girl, but you better don't mess with me. It took me less than 5 minutes to come up with a plan to destroy this whole man's life. And here's how I did it. Right the next day, when my neighbor entered our building, I left it, so he knew I wasn't at home. Because I had left my apartment door wide open and placed a couple $1,000s on my table. I knew if my neighbor saw the money, he would go and try to steal it. That's why I planted a video camera into my apartment that would record everything. And I also asked my best friend to overwhelm my neighbor in case he would try to steal the money. Well, everything went to plan, and after my neighbor had picked up the money, my friend threw himself onto him and held him down until the police arrived. I was there too, and it felt so good to see him being arrested with handcuffs and all. But of course, he knew I had set him up, so when he saw me, he screamed, "It's not over yet! I will come and find you!" However, he shouldn't have said that in front of the police. Because when it was time for him to be tried, he not only received a 2-year prison sentence for burglary and attempted theft, but another 6 months for threatening me. I was so happy that he was locked away, but then something very scary happened. 1 week later, I was walking down a street at night, when suddenly, the doors of a car right next to me opened, with 2 men coming out of them. I immediately knew they were coming for me. So I started running as fast as I could. I hadn't done sports in years, but back in college, I was inside the varsity team, so I knew how to run. And trust me, I ran. For at least a minute, they were right behind me, but they couldn't keep up and quickly gave up. After I escaped, I immediately called the police, and it took them less than a day to find the video camera footage of a car that 2 men had came out of. The owner of the car was a notorious member of a well-known biker gang. You know, one of the losers that need to drive those loud motorbikes to feel important. When the police investigated further, they found out that my old neighbor was well connected to the motorbike gang, and he had ordered them to kidnap me or do even worse. The police said my life was at risk, which is why they brought me into the witness protection program. Now I'm living in a different city with a new identity and a new job. Of course it sucks, because I can't meet up with my family or my old friends anymore. All we can do is talk via video chat. But at least I got justice, because my old neighbor and the 2 bikers that wanted to kidnap me all received life in prison sentences for attempted kidnapping, which means that they are locked away forever. I'm so glad that this nightmare is over, and I hope my story was able to illustrate how people create their own hell on earth. I mean, if my old neighbor had treated me with respect and kept his music down, and if the 2 bikers hadn't tried to kidnap me, none of them would be in prison right now. Well, anyway, a big thank you to the police for throwing those losers into prison where they belong. And please let me know what you would have done in my situation.